The thing that the courts need to really understand is the fact that my dad, the greedy framer, knows that I am not the only person who has witnessed um, him encourage people in the masses to join terror groups. He knows for a fact that that uh, intelligence agencies in Ireland and the U.S. are very well knowing about this fact. They're not letting me talk. He knows this for a fact. The fact that intelligence agencies in Ireland and the U.S. are they know very well about this fact. You have to remember the fact that even after the government informant was announced, my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters, who had confessed to the government informant as that there being subsequent lies already planned out, were still arguing for the lies despite it already being announced that there was a government informant and them knowing that there was a government informant. Basically, my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters, they count on the fact that for some odd reason, the government informant would not be able to speak. The government informant would not be able to show their face. The government informant might not be allowed to even let anyone know that they were a government informant out of fear that people might, I don't know, fire them or something. Like, they have this fear inside of them that the government informant, for one reason or another, is not going to be allowed to interfere in this trial, when in fact that's not true. The government informant was a witness to my dad, the greedy framer, his framer sister, confessing to the government informant that they had subsequent lies made against me, even after November 20th, to enviously lock up my brain savant. So the question that arises is, even after there was a government informant that was announced, and even though they knew that the government informant obviously was the person fabricating the false testimony with them in the room, obviously if the government's going to put an informant in there, they're not stupid enough to put someone outside of the house sitting there on the watch, right? They're going to have someone inside the room fabricating the false testimony. That much common sense I could literally do the math on. Obviously, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know this one. Seriously. So they, even after it was announced that there was a government informant, they were still aggressively fighting for the lies. They kept fighting for it over and over again until the courts basically told them, look, we know that these are lies and you guys are going to have to stop now. And that's when they realized that the government informant is allowed to interfere in a trial as long as they are a witness to the person fabricating a part of being a part of a fabrication gang, fabricating false testimonies to try to frame an individual like me after confessing that they're doing this to enviously lock up my brain savant, only because they didn't think they could get any of the money. And we know this for a fact because once it became absolutely sure that they knew this, they started sending me blackmail price tags for millions of dollars because they realized that the government informant already knew that this was all about money. So after sending me blackmail price tags, they tried everything for money. They tried to send their daughter's marriage request, everything they could for money, since they knew that the government informant, if the government informant testified this much to let the courts know that these were a bunch of lies, then obviously the government informant also let the courts know that these lies were based on the envy for money, due to which Ibrahim's framer's mother and my dad, the greedy framer, all of them turned out for the extreme greed for money. They're not letting me talk. So basically, yeah, that is what happened. Now, the thing about it is just the fact that my dad, the greedy framer, knows that the intelligence in Ireland and the U.S. also are fully aware of the fact that my dad, the greedy framer, was in fact encouraging people in the masses to be going over and joining terror groups. He had been doing this for a very long time before 2011, but after 2011, 2011, once he was tipped off by basically U.S. law enforcement, he not only stopped, but he started joining patriotic groups in Ireland. I know this for a fact. He would do this after 2011, and the only reason he would do this is because he wanted to show the country that he wasn't asking these people to join terror groups to mass murder people in Ireland, but other countries. Like, that would help. But anyways, we know for a fact that my dad, the greedy framer, is fully aware of the fact that the government, the intelligence in Ireland and the U.S. are both fully aware of my dad, the greedy framer, doing this, encouraging people to join terror groups for years before 2011. And the reason we know this is due to the fact that every single time my dad, the greedy framer, would come and visit the U.S., FBI would go and visit Ibrahim's mother. Ibrahim, the greedy framer spokesperson, his envious mother, FBI would go and visit her before he would go there. And the FBI would basically go and visit her, and they would ask her, like, who is this person? As in my dad, the greedy framer. And they would say, how do you know him? How are you related to him? To which Ibrahim's envious mother would say, get out of my property. You are harassing me, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So this would happen literally every time my dad, the greedy framer, would come over to the U.S. Now they changed their policy in the U.S. Now, if you're that up top on the FBI's watch list that they have to go door to door for you, then you're just not going to be allowed in this country anymore. Now they changed the policy, due to which he's not allowed in this country anymore, and probably not even in England either. The only reason he sends me blackmail price tags for London is because he doesn't want to look like he's really all that poor, because Ireland is basically a poor country. He doesn't want to look poor, so he sends me blackmail price tags for mansions in England and this and that, even though I don't think he even has a visa to England. I don't think he's even going to get a visa to England. He's just saying that. But the thing about it is, my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters, they count on the truth not being known. We've seen this multiple times, okay? They had told the government informant about the lies, and that they had planned lies even after November 20th, and yet they were still making it even after government informant was announced, with the hope, wishful thinking that the government informant, despite being a witness to them fabricating in front of him and telling him about all the subsequent lies that they had planned out, with their wishful thinking that the government informant, for one reason or another, would not be allowed to testify in the trial, when in fact that is not true. The government informant did testify, letting the courts know that every single thing that they were saying after November 20th was obviously a lie. Just like that, my dad, the greedy framer, he kept arguing very aggressively till the government informant was forced to testify. He kept arguing very aggressively that what he had been saying was true, until the government informant came out and he testified, and letting the courts know that this is absolutely false, and that his framer sister had let the government informant know that this is fully fabricated and a complete and total lie. So my dad, the greedy framer, was aggressively counting on the fact that the government informant would not be able to testify in the trial for one reason or another. Similarly, in early April, my dad, the greedy framer, was making lies very aggressively. He was counting on the fact that either technology would be too weak to be able to retrieve every single phone conversation there was, and there wouldn't be enough manpower to actually go through all these phone conversations, when in fact that is exactly what happened. They retrieved each and every single one of those phone conversations, and guess what? I told the court straight out, I was like, Your Honor, you're going to find out from the facts and evidences from the phone conversations that my dad, the greedy framer, was lying about each and every single thing that he said. Once again, he was counting on the fact that these phone conversations could not be retrieved, and that there wasn't enough manpower to actually go through all of them. Well, in fact, there was, and they found out that he was lying in the month of April again. So basically, my dad, the greedy framer, in each each one of his lies, he's been with the wishful thinking that the lie would not be caught for one reason or another, or that the person in the government informant would not be allowed to narrate or testify in the trial, thereby letting him aggressively push these lies forward until he could force the courts to make a judgment based on him and his fabricated lies that the government informant had witnessed him making. Now, the thing about it is, similarly, my dad, the greedy framer, knows that before 2011, he was encouraging people in the masses to join terror groups. He also knows that the intelligence agencies in Ireland are fully aware of this fact. He also knows that the intelligence agencies in the U.S. are fully aware of this fact. But he always counts on the fact that for one reason or another, these people will not be allowed to testify and narrate in the trial, just like how he was counting on the government informant, even after being told that there was a government informant who it was, and his framer sister being told they were counting on the fact that government informant might not be allowed to testify in the trial, when in fact that wasn't true. The reason they are so eager to do so is due to the fact that artificial intelligence has basically labeled my brain savant as the most rare and the most profitable in the world. I am the human being with the highest probability of becoming extremely rich in this world. You got to remember, I am Kim Peek Rain Man. That's much you'll know from the artificial intelligence reports. But except for Kim Peek Rain Man, I also have innovation and I also have focusing. Focusing means I don't not need to take a single second's break, like how we saw on August 9, 2022, for 6 hours. Not for 1 second did my brain tire. And yeah, that's literally all I did from morning till night. Between October 2019 till July 1st, 2023, for 4 years, from morning till night. That is literally what I would do, stare into a textbook. So basically, yeah, law enforcement saw that and they knew about this. They used severe amnesia drugs so that I couldn't remember anything. That's one thing. But the fact of the matter is they knew about it completely. It is due to what law enforcement basically knows that my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters are so eagerly trying to lock up my brain savant with the wishful thinking that government informants not going to be allowed to testify and they'll be able to push through a verdict with lies and things of that sort of nature. Excuse me, or that the intelligence agencies in the U.S. are not going to be allowed to narrate or something of that sort of nature while they could aggressively push these lies forward. You got to also remember the fact that while my dad, the greedy framer, is actually while he is actually doing all of this and aggressively lying, he's also begging me for forgiveness at the same time. And except for begging me for forgiveness at the same time, he's also sending me blackmail price tags of millions of euros, thinking that this is like his parents' mom and pop shop. Like the U.S. government's supposed to tell him using their brain scanner what the likelihood of him getting this money is or not. I mean, this is from like 3 days ago, right? And this is the Mafi, which we know is a symbol of asking for forgiveness, since Mafi means to ask for forgiveness in my language. Now, basically, yeah, the blackmail price tags are also coming from Ibrahim's house as well, because he's been caught with his fourth lie in July and he knows there's no space for lying anymore. And so 2.1 million euros now coming from him, okay? And then the Mafi again, okay? The Mafi asking for forgiveness again, right over there. So basically, yeah, that is pretty much what's going on. The entire time he's lying, he's also begging me for forgiveness and sending blackmail price tags for millions of euros and asking law enforcement to use their brain scanner, which basically is probably created with like billions of dollars of research and manpower and this and that. And he's using it to try to get law enforcement to tell him what the chances of him getting this 2.1 million euros is or not after my brain savant gets freed, to use a brain scanner to check to see what the likelihood of me agreeing to this is, which I already told law enforcement. You could check your brain scanner, but the results are going to tell you 0%, absolutely 0% of a single penny being given to anyone. I'm not that weak. It's just me and my mother. There's no one else. So basically, yeah. 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 So basically, my dad, the greedy farmer, like how he was counting on the government informant to not be able to testify. He's counting on the U.S. Intelligence to not be able to testify. He's counting on the intelligence Ireland to not be able to testify. To the fact that years from before 2011, my dad, the greedy framer, was in fact encouraging people to go join terror groups in the masses every single day, telling them that jihad must going on and that they have to join terror groups every single night in the masses from his house. And it was due to this that the FBI would be forced to go and meet with Ibrahim's mother every single time he would come over to the US. And they would go to her and they would ask her, they would say, oh, how are you related to this man? As in my dad, the greedy framer. And she would get really angry and she would tell them to get out of her house. She would tell them that they were harassing her, this and that. So my dad, the greedy framer, knows for a fact that the intelligence in the US and even in Ireland is very well aware of the fact that he had been encouraging people to go join terror groups. He had been doing it for years before 2011. And yeah, I do not lie about anything. And the other thing is, there's no way I would know in 2011 that he was tipped off about not encouraging people to join terror groups anymore, unless if the circus went out overnight, which it did. And unless if I saw a government informant there, which I did. And yeah, so basically there were way too many clues out there, and the entire circus is out. Like poof, everyone is gone. Like I'm just like, what happened here? Like overnight, like either he had a change of heart or he was tipped off, and obviously he was tipped off. But you have to understand the fact that every single time my dad, the greedy framer, comes over to the U.S., FBI has to go meet with Ibrahim's mother. Before he would go there, and they would ask his mother, like, how are you related to this man, as in my dad, the greedy farmer, and she would tell them, like, he's my brother or this or that. But at the end of the day, she would also say, get out of my property, you're harassing me, this and that. Now they changed their policy in the U.S. They no longer, if someone had been encouraging people to go join terror groups from his house in the masses every single night, they're not going to be allowed into the country anymore. He knows this for a fact. He knows the FBI knows about it. He's just counting on them not being allowed to narrate or testify, just like how he was counting on the government informant not being allowed to testify that he knew about the fact that these guys were lying about me out of the hope that they could lock up my brain savant so that no one could get the money that they couldn't get. I mean, obviously, it is about the money. It is about the brain savant. Law enforcement only became obsessed with me after finding out about my brain savant. And the ironic thing is, when they were trying to frame me for the wedding crime in 2023, after August 25th, 2023. So I won my case on August 25th, 2023, and I became law enforcement's worst nightmare. I started whining and crying about my studying ability right away. I was like, I have a brain savant. I'm a triple savant. I want to be able to study. I know you know. I want to study. I want to study. I want to study. I said it like every single day after August 25th, 2023. You got to remember, after July 1st, 2023, law enforcement didn't even let me stare into a textbook. So there was another clue that they knew about my brain savant, obviously. So basically, after I came back and I was being stalked by everyone, people are aligning their cars with mine and this and that. Like I'm not retarded. They gave me a list of girls to choose from. So I basically, after August 25th, 2023, I told law enforcement straight out, I was like, I'm a triple savant. I know you know. I want to be able to use my powers now. I've had enough. I want to study now. This is enough. I want to study now. So I became law enforcement's worst nightmare. You got to remember, the year 2023, when law enforcement tried to frame me for this wedding crime before they confessed amongst each other, they knew for a fact there was no way I could have had anything to do with it, or that anyone even told me about it. Like, no one invites a fast food worker over to their house and like, let me invite you over for dinner, you and your son, and I'm going to tell you guys about a secret that I know, like, no one does that. Like, why would anyone do that? No one did that. My mother has a lot of siblings, but no one did that. So we didn't even know about anything. No one invited us over to their house, but that was poverty was basically a blessing in disguise for the both of us, because after I became a triple brain savant, all law enforcement had were fabricated false testimonies, and Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me something in 2019, and I just stopped her, like, I don't know anything, and I don't want to know anything. Whatever you guys know, you guys know. Law enforcement couldn't care less. In 2023, law enforcement was running their money fraud the entire year. They were giving Uncle Joey protocol at the November 2023 funeral, like as if he was sitting governor or something, like much better than a governor. Like he would make, literally he would make a sitting governor envious if they just saw the protocol that Uncle Joey got at the funeral in 2023, only because Uncle Joey's in-laws provided law enforcement for sex. So it's since 2001, basically. Now, you might be like, Hassan, where'd you get this number 2001 from? That's a long time ago, because the investigation started in 2001. And if you saw the way they were providing him with sex, I mean, protocol at the funeral in November 2023, you would just look at me and you would just be like, Hassan, it is 2001. You were right. Like, yes, I'm 100% sure. Like, law enforcement tipped off his in-laws in the year 2001. I can guarantee you that much. But basically, yeah, that is what happened. Now, the ironic thing is the entire year of 2023, law enforcement's running their money fraud, law enforcement's running their sex schemes at the November 2023 funeral. And then they want to frame me for a wedding crime that they knew that I had nothing to do with, only because I won my case August 25th, 2023, and they didn't want to let me study. This entire thing has nothing to do with any investigations. It has nothing to do with any investigations. You could just look at how stubbornly the money fraud was run, how aggressively they were providing Uncle Joey with the protocol at the November 2023 funeral, only because they were receiving sex from Uncle Joey's in-laws since the year 2001. Someone like Bushra Akhtar is telling me about some sort of a crime that I guess she knew about in the year 2019 before I stopped her. Like, stop right there. I never knew about anything, and I don't want to know about anything. And then, yeah, I just stopped her right there and then. But law enforcement knew. Law enforcement couldn't care less. They've only been obsessed with me due to my brain savant. And if you don't believe me, if you think there's 1% chance that law enforcement is not, very simple test. Go up to law enforcement, tell them that they have to administer a 30-minute brain savant test. There's no excuse for not doing it. They did a 1-minute test in Moscow, Russia, and right after the 1-minute test, they let every single person in Moscow, Russia know about the results of the 1-minute brain savant test, due to which now I know that results are never leaked out. Law enforcement purposely tells everyone in town about it. The next morning, so November 14th at night, they do the test. The next morning around afternoon time, I'm at the Spear Bank in Moscow, Russia. Everyone's looking at me like an alien creature just walked into the bank. So yeah, it was kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie, it was really nice. But yeah, that is pretty much what happened. But yeah, so a very simple test is just tell law enforcement, if this is not about his brain savant, if it's not about his brain savant, everything you've done till now has been sex schemes and money fraud. If it's not about his brain savant, then just do a 30-minute test. No matter if I'm Kim Peek Rain Man at the end of the 30-minute test or a complete total nothing burger, they still win the test because they've proven to the world that they're not scared to do a 30-minute brain savant test. It's a very simple test. They can't claim that everyone in the world's going to know that my brain savant was locked up and it's going to raise human rights concerns because, well, the 1-minute test in Moscow, Russia already let everyone in the world know about it. So that excuse is no longer valid that everyone's going to know. Everyone already knows because you already showed them when you were scared that some country might pull a prank on you and turn it off for 30 minutes because they were running their mouths a lot before I went to Moscow, Russia, only due to extreme envy of their sex schemes being ruined by me and with these girls running after me. They were running their mouths a lot before I went to Moscow, Russia, and they were really scared when I went to Moscow, Russia, that some country might pull a prank on them to give me my 30-minute test, due to which they even did the 1-minute test, try to check to see how bad their nightmare was. Well, anyways, the fact of the matter is, if everything law enforcement's done till now is not about sex and money and their sex schemes. And in the year 2023, when they were trying to frame me for the wedding crime, they were running their sex schemes and money fraud the entire year. If that's not what it's all about, then like it's a very simple test. Tell law enforcement, just do a 30-minute brain savant test. At the end of the 30-minute test, whether I'm Kim Peek Rain Man or I'm a complete total nothing burger, law enforcement still wins, because law enforcement has proven in front of the entire world that they're not obsessed with not being able to see my brain savant perform out in the open for even 30 minutes, due to which they're doing everything. Law enforcement still wins no matter what we see at the end of the 30-minute test. But the fact of the matter is, if law enforcement at some night, I was like watching TV a couple of months ago, and they turned off my brain savant for 10 seconds. 10 seconds, they turned it off. Right afterwards, I saw on my YouTube, it said panic of blah, blah, blah year on there. It's like panic of blah, blah, blah year. For a 10-second test, they went into a state of panic for a 10-second test. So yeah, like it's clearly that's what it's all about, okay? And if that's not what it's all about, then just give me a 30-minute test. Give me a 30-minute brain savant test. If it's not all about me and the obsession with my brain savant, then just give me a 30-minute brain savant test. No matter what we see at the end of the 30-minute test, whether I'm Kim Peek Rain Man or I'm a nothing burger, law enforcement still wins, because law enforcement at the end of the 30 minutes has proven in front of the entire world that this is not about an obsession with not being able to see my brain savant perform for even 30 minutes, due to which they became absolutely obsessed with me after doing absolutely nothing but running sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, and money fraud, which was so stubbornly run that they only stopped about 2 months ago. So 30-minute test, brain savant test, is the absolute litmus test to find out whether law enforcement is really guilty of what I'm accusing them of, which is basically being obsessed with me and my brain savant, which is why they've done everything they've done. And whether that is the case or not, because at the end of the 30-minute test, whether I'm Kim Peek Rain Man or a nothing burger, law enforcement still wins, because they've proven in front of the entire world that this is not about my brain savant, that this is not about my brain savant, when in fact it is. And I'm saying it is, and the fact of the matter is, the reason they won't do it is due to their sex addiction. Law enforcement is scared that the girls that are rejecting them and calling the police on them right now will reject them even more if the girls find out that the girls are able to see my brain savant perform out in the open for 30 minutes. That is all the story is about. That is everything the story is about. Law enforcement's getting rejected by these girls like crazy. They made up stories to these girls about such and such person being a CEO or this and that, blah, blah, blah. And they brought these girls over after telling them about my brain savant, whatever artificial intelligence read out to them about my brain savant. Yeah, but right now, law enforcement is not going to want to do a 30-minute test, even though it's proves the absence of guilt for law enforcement, who's done absolutely nothing except for run sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, money fraud, which was still ongoing till about 2 months ago, when the government forced it to stop. Brain savant test, the 30-minute brain savant test, whether I'm Kim Peek Rain Man at the end of 30 minutes or I'm a nothing burger, it proves without a reasonable doubt that this is not what law enforcement has been obsessed with me, and that the reason law enforcement is obsessed with me is not to do with their I was pointing outside because I could show it to you, not to do with their sex addiction. Which is basically what it's all about. I was pointing outside because I could always show you outside my window really how bad they're getting rejected, which is terrible. But yeah, that's all I had to say.